¿Podéis imaginaros a una madre cara a cara con el asesino de su hija? ¿Y te imaginas a una hija con el asesino de su madre? Pues hoy vamos a ver justo eso. Seguro que a más de uno le explota la cabeza viendo lo que vamos a ver. Este hecho tan sorprendente ocurre dentro de las prácticas restaurativas, prácticas que se llevan a cabo dentro de la justicia restaurativa que lleva tantos años desarrollándose en muchos países. Si no tenías conocimiento de la misma, hoy vamos a observar de qué se trata y vamos a ver cómo este caso hace gala de su uso. Este tipo de práctica consiste en una reunión en la que el delincuente se enfrentará cara a cara con su víctima, directa o indirecta, y con un mediador de por medio que mediará la reunión. Este tipo de práctica ha demostrado ser útil en muchos aspectos. Para empezar, en el caso del delincuente puede mostrarle una conexión directa con el mundo exterior, una visión distinta a lo que en su día vivió a la hora de realizar el crimen y ver la realidad de lo que vivió la propia víctima en ese momento. Esto tiene estudios que demuestran que podría ayudar a una mejora de la actividad neuronal en el propio delincuente, lo cual podría hacer que no reincidiera en un futuro. Para la víctima, este tipo de reuniones puede servir para obtener respuestas de qué fue lo que llevó al delincuente a realizar ese delito, observar también su perspectiva y llevar a cabo una conciliación con el mismo, quizá para obtener esa paz mental tan necesaria después de ciertos hechos traumáticos. Ahora bien, yendo al meollo del asunto, este tipo de encuentros tiene una serie de etapas bien marcadas, y vamos a observar este tipo de etapas viendo como ejemplo el caso real que conté al principio. Un caso en el que una madre y su nieta se reencontrarán con el asesino que mató a su hija y madre respectivamente.
Two 15-year-old boys are in the custody of Harris County officials tonight in connection with the murder of a 26-year-old Northwest Harris County woman.
In 1986, when I was 5 years old, my mother was abducted, raped, and murdered.
Two 15-year-old boys who escaped from a Texas Youth Council facility last
In
month.
1986, my daughter Kathy was abducted, was raped, and was murdered.
One of the teenagers led police early Saturday to an isolated area.
Sheriff's deputies say the teens led them to the woman's body in a field in Brazoria County.
They ended up almost in Alvin, Texas.
The authorities say O'Daniel had been sexually assaulted and shot.
She was shot once in the leg and 3 times in the back of the head.
The boys were captured 4 days later in Kathy's stolen car.
They had also tried to disfigure her face, apparently with a cigarette lighter, just to make her not identifiable.
They didn't find her body for 4 days. Can you only imagine what this family went through?
They both pled guilty, so there was no trial. I have never laid eyes on either one of them.
The trigger man is in a psychiatric unit and we can't see him.
But I am preparing to meet with the other one a few months from now.
I'm getting ready to meet one of the boys who murdered my mother.
In 1988, I pled guilty to first-degree murder and sexual assault. I'm currently serving a sentence of 54 years.
Imagine sitting at a table and looking in the eyes of the man who murdered someone you love.
Para empezar, en este proceso es la víctima o víctima indirecta, en este caso, el que inicia el proceso. Al iniciar el proceso se consulta al delincuente si éste está interesado en llevarlo a cabo. Bien, antes de llevar a cabo el encuentro tendremos un proceso de reflexión y papeleo que durará entre 6 meses y 2 años. En este periodo ambas partes realizarán una serie de cuestionarios que ayudarán a preparar el encuentro. El mediador o mediadora por su parte deberá primero reunirse con la víctima y con el agresor para observar si desde su punto de vista es viable este tipo de encuentro. Tras meses y meses en los que la mediadora aclara posturas con la víctima y con el agresor, se llevará a cabo el encuentro.
The program is named Victim Offender Mediation Dialogue because really that's what we do. We cause a dialogue to happen.
I contacted Victim Services about 2 years ago.
This process is initiated by the victim, and then we contact the offender who's in prison to see if he might be interested. The offender, in order to participate, understands that he has to admit guilt, and it absolutely does not benefit him in any way. It does not affect his parole or how he is perceived inside the prison system. We are on our way to Tomball, Texas, which is about 40 miles northwest of Houston.
Today, Halbert will meet the victims at their home. They have been corresponding for 6 months, but this will be their first face-to-face meeting.
Get started. Whoever wants to talk about what you remember happening, when you first knew that something just wasn't quite right, the day that you lost your daughter and your mother.
She was killed probably
early morning hours of the 18th. But we didn't know, of course, she was gone until the 22nd. Remember, John said, it's the worst you can possibly imagine.
Our first meeting, it was very emotional. It was like first time sitting down, remembering everything that happened. It brings back a lot of pain and a lot of fear and a lot of stuff that I hadn't dealt with in a long time. I don't remember who told me. Was it Dad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't say the words.
And he told me, and I remember screaming, "But Mommy's pregnant, Mommy's pregnant." I was so excited that I was going to have a baby brother or sister. And I remember I ran into here and I went and hid in the pantry. And I remember Dad came in there and got me.
We know this is not going to be a simple process. If it were that easy, we wouldn't be preparing for it all these months.
The preparation process can take anywhere from 6 months to 2 years before the actual mediation takes place.
The process involves months of paperwork and soul-searching. Both sides keep journals, answer questionnaires that probe their fears and motivations, complete grief inventories that examine how the crime has affected their lives.
The philosophy behind this program is to give power back to victims.
Today is Halbert's first meeting with convicted murderer Gary Brown. She's apprehensive.
Lots of razor wire. What we hope to do today is get Gary to talk more about what was going on in his life that drove him to the point that he committed this horrible crime.
I drunk. I didn't think, anything could stop us or get in the way of it.
What kind of drugs were you on?
I was on coke, speed. We call it speedball when you mix them together. And we've been drinking MD 2020. That's when we took advantage of her and gave her no choice on it, sexually.
Both of you?
Yes.
As far as Ellen knows, Gary has never spoken to anyone about his crime, not even his cellmates.
He's been able to push it out of his mind and not think about it, as many offenders do. It was good for him to be able to talk about it.
The only way we thought we'd ever be able to keep it from being known and get away with it was to make sure she couldn't say nothing.
Did you know she was dead?
More or less after the second or either third shot, that was pretty well we both believed that, just by the way it was seen, that she was dead, because she wasn't moving, there was no screaming, there was no crying.
Anything happened after that?
We was trying to make it, at that time, make it where nobody could identify her. That's where we tried to set her on fire. And we tried by setting her hair on fire, trying to actually buy time is what we was trying to do. I mean, that's how sick we were back then.
Not require the offender to write letters to his victims, but Gary has chosen to do so. Ellen has read and approved the letters that she delivered to the family.
To the daughter of the mother. As I write this letter, I don't know if you will read it. I think I would be the last person you want to hear from. I'm sure you hate me and maybe wish I was dead. You know I don't blame you if this is true. I understand and I don't believe
you're wrong for feeling that way. I know no matter what I do, I cannot make things right. I don't expect y'all to believe how sorry I am for messing up y'all's life.
If I could change a day in my life, it would be that day. I will always hate a part of myself for that day. Why? I was 15 years old when that happened. I've been in and out of boys' homes and state school all my life. I was left behind when I was born by my mom. I was put in an orphanage. Later on, my stepdad sexually abused me. That's when I first ran away from home.
I understand what it's like not to have a family. Whatever you think of me, I understand. And if you hate me for the rest of your life, that's okay. It's my fault. I caused you to feel that way.
Well, I'm going to stop here. Like I said, I don't expect you to believe me, but I hope somewhere down the line my actions will show how sorry I am. Gary Brown.
This process demands that both sides re-examine their lives.
A continuación nos encontraríamos con la segunda etapa. Esta segunda etapa se torna como algo muy tedioso, porque aquí nos encontramos con el mayor impacto psicológico del encuentro. Observamos cómo las víctimas tienen el contacto directo con el asesino que mató a lo que más querían en su vida.
Now for over a year, and my training has taught me to recognize from their written material and from our face-to-face meetings when both sides are ready, and they are ready.
The mediation will take place in 2 weeks.
Today is the day of the mediation. After all this work, it is finally going to happen. I'm not nervous, not nearly as nervous as I was before a few weeks ago.
I'm getting nervous. I can't eat much more.
The mediation will take place in the prison chapel.
Well, in a few minutes we're going to go get Gary. All right, you have anything you'd like to talk about or any issues you might have before we go get him?
No, I'm fine.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, let's go get Gary.
For me, 14 bottom, brown. It's candy.
Need somebody to do it quite a while and just work it.
Really nervous. I want you to just sit down and for 30 seconds or maybe a minute, just gather your thoughts. Okay. See you in a minute.
It is 10:30 a.m. 15 years of grief, guilt, and soul-searching have come down to this moment.
Oh my goodness, he's already up there.
Well, all these many months that we've been preparing has led us to where we are today. We have created a safe place for you, Linda, and you, Amy, to meet with you, Gary. And my role is in this meeting is the same as it's always been. I'm just here to support all of you.
I can tell it's going to be kind of a tough day. The main thing I want to get out of it, Gary, is I want you to know a lot about us and what the last 14 and a half years have been like for us. Not just the bad, the good things too. And I want to know the same things about you.
Well, you pretty much said everything that I wanted to say. I want you to know that I'm just as scared and nervous as you are. I don't want to say anything else right now.
One of the problems that we have, Gary, is that we never did have enough of what really happened to put things together.
But I'm hoping that by going through this all over again, not on my behalf, but on y'all's behalf, that y'all don't wind up hating me even more and never even being able to consider anything about me being good and it changing what y'all dealt with all these years. And
I just feel like the sooner we can kind of get, maybe we just need to get past that. Can you do it? We'll let you know if you get to a point where we can't listen, okay?
She's always having trouble with the station wagon. And it's all, everything I'm telling you is true. I'm not making up, not trying to make myself look good or my family partner look good or anything. It's just the way it went. She saw us having trouble, and out of curiosity, she asked what was wrong.
Can I just interrupt you long enough to ask you, where were you when this was going on?
At the gas station.
Like, do you know why she was at the gas station?
She was getting gas. I remember that.
She was just getting gas?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
At that time, she said, well, I can take out Alvin if you want, bring you back up. The God's got true, this part was volunteered. At that time, the gun was never pulled. There was nothing, she didn't even know we had it. It was when we got close to Alvin, that's where we wound up, things wound up changing. I let her down, told her where to go down a road that I knew was leading to nothing, out in pasture. And then when she asked why, Marvin pulled the gun, he had the gun on him and says, don't worry about it, just do what we're telling you.
Do you know why it went in the direction it went? I mean, can you remember back what happened?
Thought was, shooting in the leg would give us time to get away. And honestly, at first, there was no intent. It did change up, but there was no intent of killing. It was to slow her down so we'd be able to get in the car and get away and be long gone before she could tell anybody what had happened. In our minds, we felt we had no choice, about this. She's already seen our faces.
I mean, it wasn't like she pissed you off, or she was like, or y'all even had to force her to do it. She was just doing it just to be nice. And those were like pretty much the last thing she said was just why.
When she was out there and she heard me and him talking, and we had realized we'd already gone too far. She said, you can take the car, you can take the money, you can take anything you want, and I won't say nothing. And then as Marvin pointed the gun towards the way, she said, I forgive you and God will too. And then she put her head down. And if I don't remember anything else that night as clear as I did, it was that right there.
That was your mama. Down to the very last moment of her life.
Did you know that Kathy was pregnant?
No, ma'am. It did not show.
No, she was only 2 months pregnant. But she didn't tell you?
No, ma'am. I think she was too busy trying to keep up what was going on.
We thought she might have told you to keep you from killing her.
Honestly, I didn't know this until almost a little bit after the conviction. And me getting convicted back then. There was a lot of things I didn't even know. I didn't know about you.
I just wondered what she told you, like if she said anything about her being pregnant or she said anything about me, because I just wondered if that would have saved her.
My opinion is why she didn't want to say too much is because maybe she would have been scared it could have raised a reaction or more hostility towards her.
You remember what she looked like?
I remember she had, I want to say blonde hair, kind of blondish brown, and blue jeans on. I don't remember the color of the shirt.
We brought pictures. This is Kathy when she was little, and I think she was 6 in that picture. This was Kathy's wedding. This is the last great picture of Kathy. That was, see, she really had brown hair, but she had been messing with it.
Well, I have a baby now, and I mean, Kathy not being there, it's been really, really hard. And, but now that I have a baby, it's even harder at times, because she would have been his grandmother, and Chase will never get to meet her.
That's her son, Chase.
He's beautiful, isn't he?
Thank you, Gary. We'll see you in a little while.
Thank you for allowing me to have this chance. But try to help y'all.
You are helping. It's hard, and I think it takes a lot of guts to do it, so I appreciate that.
After 4 emotional hours, each side goes their separate ways for lunch. They will be back.
Ahora llegaríamos a la tercera etapa. Después de la etapa más difícil a nivel emocional, nos encontraríamos con un descanso. Se realizaría un parón y se volvería en 1 hora. A la vuelta, sorprendentemente nos encontramos con un ambiente mucho más cálido.
Did you anything to eat?
Jawbreaker.
After the details of crime have been disclosed, there is a noticeable change in the
Do
room.
you think maybe you should spit that out? You want it?
Kind of long.
Looks like somebody hit you. Well, this afternoon, we're going to talk about several different things. Linda wants to talk a little bit about their family. She wants you to know them, just like they want to know you more. And Amy's going to also talk about her childhood. So
I was afraid of everything as a little girl. I was so scared of everything. I get dropped off at the school bus, and any type of vehicle would come down our street. I thought they were after me. And I thought they were out to get me, and I'd start running.
We took Amy to counseling for first couple of years. And then again in 7th grade, she started having problems with depression. We had to take her back. And my sons, John and Steve, have had a lot of emotional problems over this, too.
There's times where I tried to strangle myself, or I've tried to overdose.
About at 8, what did you try to do?
I was afraid of the time. I was thinking it would kill me. My stepfather, whenever I got in trouble, he forced me into 2 things. Either I could take the whooping, or either I had to do a sexual favor.
I can't imagine. What do you do with your time, Gary?
Really, just in between, it really boils down to nothing but basically recreation, and then watching movies in the evening whenever a movie comes on.
Do you ever read?
Yeah, I read
What do you
based
like
on
to
true
read?
stories.
Based on true stories.
I like based on true stories, meaningful stories. I like the way they get me at the end, like Touched by an Angel does.
Yeah, you like that?
Love it.
Me do too.
You ever thought about me making pro? How y'all gonna feel or think?
If you have a place to go and something to do, positive, with the rest of your life, you making parole is absolutely fine with me. And so I do hope that no matter how hard it is, that you will stay involved in education the minute they let you into it, as long as you can until you get out. And, I mean, go as far as you can.
I want to finish it before I get out. As far as, especially GED, please don't ever think about anything y'all ask me to do. To think it's going to frustrate or be an inconvenience or hurt me. As long as y'all allow me to be able to show y'all different ways, I will continue until y'all stop or y'all say I can't.
We will allow you.
To be honest with you, that will mean a whole lot to me.
We will allow that, I guarantee you.
Y ya llegaríamos a la última etapa. Esta etapa se muestra como la unión total entre las situaciones entre la víctima y el agresor, y el alivio total que ha proporcionado en ambas partes este encuentro.
Well, you know, it's almost 4:30 and we're going to have to be finishing. Do y'all have any thoughts, any final things that you would like to say to Gary?
Amy and I have been whispering, what we've been whispering about is we'd like Gary to have a picture of us.
You can get close. You don't have to stand back.
The ending surprised me for a couple reasons. Yeah, it felt really good thinking, here are the two people supposed to be hating me, but they were still willing, you know, to embrace in a picture. I felt like I was hit with a baseball bat, you know, knocked in left field, because, I mean, that really surprised me.
Say cheese, Gary.
Cheese.
For me, it was the most logical thing in the world. After this time together, what we gave each other, to have a hug at the end.
Thank you. God bless you.
We'll be watching you.
Trust me, I'll give you something to see in the bright light.
That's good.
I'm pretty glad that I hugged him and taken the pictures and stuff, but it was really, really hard for me to do that. Well, thank you for doing this.
I hope it really does you good.
But as hard as it was, I know that that's what I was supposed to do at that time. And then here's a picture of all three of us, with Gary standing in the middle. It's been a month, and I feel like a whole different person. He looks pretty scared. Not only do I feel closer to Kathy, which is, you know, the most amazing feeling you can ever feel. Here's my mom and I. But not only that, I feel closer to myself, because we both look like we've been crying. All of our makeup is gone. I know my strength, and I know that there's not one fear that I can't face, that there's not one obstacle I can't overcome. He has a face I'll never forget. It was so hard, the hardest thing I've ever had to do, but it definitely was just amazing.
So this one's going to be real hard for my family to see. And of course the other big piece is the fact that she said, I forgive you, and God will forgive you too. If she could say that in the last moments of her life, then she was not in the same kind of terror that I have always imagined she was. So it gives me peace to know that she had some peace even in those last few moments. It gives me another kind of affirmation that doing this mediation was 100% the right thing for Amy and I to do.
I could have never predicted that this photo of the three of them arm in arm would have ever happened. I could have not predicted that. I really don't think there's been a day that I haven't thought about it. I mean, the impact of what happened in that room, the emotion that was created among those three people, Linda and Amy and Gary, and I can tell you, it spilled over onto me. Gary looks like a little boy. I really loved it, and I thought it was enormously successful for everyone. For me. I think he could have been a wonderful son to someone.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the most important days of my life. I've never even had anything turn out that special. I've never had anything that had that much fulfillment. I know I shouldn't have smiled. I went crazy there. I do feel better about myself because I did accomplish something good. Like I said, I'm not fixing to do anything that's going to make my conscience bother me anymore. And if it's my conscience going to bother me, it means I'm not doing something right. I'm not going to make that mistake no more. And I do feel changes within me. I didn't do all this for nothing, and I can't stop now.
Impresionante, ¿verdad? Da para pensar, da para reflexionar, la verdad, mucho, largo y tendido el hecho de que una madre y una hija han perdonado al asesino que le arrebató lo que más querían. Incluso han mostrado una cierta afinidad y cierta compasión por el mismo. Claro, la pregunta que surge ante este caso es, ¿sería aplicable este tipo de encuentro en todos los casos? Evidentemente, si solo nos centráramos en este vídeo, la respuesta rotundamente sería sí. ¿Por qué? Porque acabamos de ver un caso en el que hay un asesinato y una violación hacia la hija de una madre y hacia la madre de una hija. Algo que a priori parecería imposible de perdonar. claro, podríamos pensar, si ellas lo han perdonado, ¿por qué no todo el mundo puede? Pero la realidad es que no podemos generalizar por este caso en concreto. ¿Por qué? Porque nos encontramos con una víctima indirecta que tiene una mentalidad bastante favorable a la realización de esta práctica. Por otro lado, también nos encontramos con que el agresor está bastante predispuesto a este tipo de prácticas, cosa que no siempre es así. Claro, la cosa es esa, no todas las víctimas reaccionarían así ante este caso, como tampoco todos los asesinos o agresores reaccionarían así ante un encuentro con sus víctimas. En fin, lo que está claro es que no todo es tan fácil como parece y nadie sabe cómo reaccionaría ante una situación hasta que la sufre. ¿Y tú? ¿Qué harías si tuvieras delante al asesino que arrebató la vida de la persona que más querías en tu vida?